What's going on, golf addicts? Welcome to the Tour Junkies golf show here on the Better Sports Network. I am DB of the Tour Junkies. I got Pat Perry with me, also of the Tour Junkies, rocking all the logos. Pat, look at you! Look
Yeah,
at
a
you!
lot of logos today.
What a logo whore you are! A Cuskawilla shirt, a Congaree hat.
Yeah. Well,
Show everybody how elite you are, huh?
I guess. I wasn't really going for that look, but yeah, it
Like
just
a
happened.
NASCAR
It
car.
happened. I just splattered myself with logos today.
Tell you what, you can't hide money. Listen, um, boy, speaking of logos, you would have loved to have been a logo on Brooks Koepka at the PGA Championship, I
Yes.
mean, outside of Nike. Because Brooks Koepka dominates yet another major, his third PGA Championship, his
Mhm.
fifth major, and he now passes Rory with all-time majors, and he is approaching some incredible territory to possibly get at the 7 or 8 major mark. We're going to talk a lot about Brooks Koepka today. We do have a special guest coming up at the end of the show. Our boy Jeff Seeley, cut maker Jeff, is coming on. I mean, because if Brooks Koepka wins a major and you can't get Brooks on or Jenna or like Brooks's mom, the
Mhm.
next biggest Brooks, stan is Jeff Seeley, cut maker Jeff. So I'm sure he's happy. We're going to talk to him a little bit about Brooks as well, and get his thoughts on live betting because Jeff is a known live golf gambler, and so I want to get some tips from him. We might
Yeah.
just have another just the tip from Jeff today in terms
He's
of
actually good at it too. Like
he is
usually
actually
if I'm live betting, it's because all my lineups are dead and I'm just desperate to do something.
yeah.
So yeah, that's one. So, but he actually thinks it out. He plans it out a little better than I do. So
Well, I will say, I mean, Pat, I'm 1 for 2 on live bets this year with Siwoo as
yeah,
both my live bets. Almost won the Byron Nelson, lost by a shot, and then did win the what was it, the Amex earlier this year on a live bet. So
yeah.
we'll get some more good stuff from Jeff Seeley here later. But let's talk about it, man. I mean, so 5 majors, 5. Okay, our boy Jeff does have the word on the street is he has a substantial future on the over 7.5 majors for Brooks Koepka, which, I would say before April, before he showed up at Augusta National at the Masters and looked like vintage Brooks Koepka, most people would have thought that was crazy, that he would get 4 more at the time. He gets number 5 here at the PGA Championship. Do you think he could get 3 more to hit that over, Pat?
I absolutely think he could get 3 more to hit the over. I mean, you look at Brooks and his game, it's just built for majors. And not just when I say he's built for majors, it's not really just his play with a golf club in his hand. It's his mentality. It's the way he carries himself when he gets out there. He walks out on the course and immediately thinks he can beat everybody there. He comes there expecting to win, and he typically does. If you look at his win rate in majors, it is pretty incredible. You can compare it to even the great Tiger Woods. So
Yeah,
I
who was
think
it that put that out there on
I
was
saw
that
that on Twitter. I wish I had it. I don't, but yeah, it's very interesting. And I'm talking, not just the wins, but the top tens, top fives, all of that kind of stuff. He is always up there, and so I think that to get 3 more is entirely doable. He has shown it really on, at all of them. He's shown he can almost win the Masters. I mean, he did. Was it when Hideki won where he could have easily won that one? And then obviously this past year he could have won. He's been in contention in every single one of them. So I think you're going to get. And actually, I think some people would probably say that the Open Championship might have been the first one that Brooks could win because he went over to Europe. And that's where he cut his teeth before he came back to the PGA Tour. So he knows that style of play too. And he hadn't gotten a major yet there, which could happen. So
You make me laugh when you say cut his teeth because did you see the old video that's floating around on Twitter today of him when he was on the Challenge Tour?
no, I did not see that. I did not see
There
that.
there's an old video. I wish I could remember who it was. I don't know if the tour posted it or Scratch TV may have posted it. There's an old video when Brooks was on the Challenge Tour, which is basically like the Korn Ferry Tour of the DP World Tour, which
Yeah.
is where he went after college to play professionally. And I think he's in India, and they're following him around India. It's like this 2-minute clip video of Brooks, and I I have to say, like, it's kind of jarring how different he kind of is in this video. Not just how he looks, but also how he acts in this video. He looks super young. I mean, he is. He's
Yeah.
like really young. He's like much skinnier. And but you said cut his teeth. It was before he got his veneers and his fake grill,
Mm,
that he's got. The
okay.
teeth were a little jacked up. Um,
Little gnarly teeth,
yeah,
huh?
but more interesting than that is, like, he had so much like, way more personality. You could tell he was, like, a little uncomfortable being in front of the camera a bit, but he was, like, smiling, and he was kind of energetic, and he was a little bit outgoing, and he was showing you around India, and he was talking to the locals, and it was kind of weird. Like, it's kind of weird to see Brooks like that because now he just seems so, like, shut off, shut down, reserved. I think occasionally he'll let his hair down, and let us see it on social media or on Jenna Sim's social media or on,
Mhm.
Pardon My Take when he goes on. But um, it was a very funny video. Like the 2 minutes, the 2 or so minutes that I found was interesting, but his teeth were definitely very, very different. That's the first thing you notice. He doesn't have
I'll
those chiclet teeth.
I'll have to check that out.
If I would have thought about that, we could have gone ahead and queued that up. So the other thing about Brooks Koepka winning, Pat, we got to talk about is what it does for Liv. And we talked about it a little bit on our show. It's obviously, to me, there's like two indicators that tell me things are changing. And number one is your somewhat
Mm,
turnaround on Liv
yeah.
that we talked about on the show. But number two is, like, I played in my member this weekend. I talked to a bunch of dudes at the club. They all know what I do. They all have opinions. We were watching the PGA Championship, and none of them care. None of them care about Liv. None of them care about, and these are mostly old white guys in the South. Like, they don't care about the Saudi thing. They just don't. They just want to see the best golfers play golf more often. And they miss Brooks and DJ and Cam and even Bryson being somewhat of a factor this past week. The villain in Patrick Reed. They miss these guys and they just don't care. They want the two tours to figure it out. And I think the tide is changing. And I think that with that and Brooks's victory, it could mean world golf ranking points. Everything could get expedited, right? Like, how fast do we think this stuff moves? Do you think that this will die off in a couple weeks? And if the live guys don't win a US Open, it's not like they have to win another major for this whole thing to change, or do we think anything's going to change?
Well, I mean, I would like for things to change. I would like for it to not really matter all that much. I'm still not a big fan of live itself. I'm not going to find myself, at least I don't think, going on and watching a live golf event. I just can't really get into the format and that kind of stuff. But as far as majors are concerned, you just have to have these players in there. And I don't think that's going to change. I think you've already seen that with these majors. You got to have the best players in the world there. I think, though, the biggest change is going to come, from an immediate impact is with the Ryder Cup, because that's the biggest sort of world golf event that we're closest to right now, where there's going to be some decisions made, especially on the U.S. side. I don't think it's as, you know, Luke Donald on the European side really doesn't have as many big choices as Zach Johnson does, and Zach's in kind of a tough position, I think. But he's going to have to look at Brooks now for sure. He's probably going to have to look at DJ and maybe even Patrick Reed.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a huge thing, because if they get on the Ryder Cup team, then you start to see other things change, I believe, as far as the way these two tours are going to have to interact because of how big of a world event that is. But the thing is so that's, I think, the biggest impact right now. Now, as far as the two tours, I don't think we're close to that. Because if you see where Jay Monahan is and where Greg Norman is, the two leaders of the tours we're talking about with Liv and the PGA Tour, they are on very opposite ends of the spectrum still. I don't think that's changed. But the majors has at least shown that the players themselves can all get along, can all enjoy playing with each other. They like having the best players in the world there. They're fine, but the leaders are not. And I don't think that's going to change right off the bat.
Speaking of the Ryder Cup debate, there was a viral clip going around with Brandel Chambly, noted live hater,
Mhm.
and his fellow associate there of the Golf Channel, Brad Faxon, talking about the Ryder Cup, and Brandel's brain is broken. Let's watch this clip.
The PGA of America runs the Ryder Cup. I don't think this has anything to do with. They're not playing for money at the Ryder Cup, Brandel. They're playing for their country. He's an American.
They're playing for their country. They're not playing for their tour. They're just playing for their country. There's certainly a sense that the Europeans are playing for their tour. You're right. Yeah, I think you're right. You make a reasonable point. They're not playing for their tour. They're just playing for their country.
Well, they're playing golf. We stand off here. No, I mean, honestly, it's a hard decision for me. I don't know that there's a right answer to this, but I know that Koepka, he's second on the points list right now. He's only played in two events on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, second and first will move you right up.
Yeah,
the Ryder Cup
he
here.
sure will.
Brandel, in the first couple seconds there, when he's like, you can see the malfunctioning going down. You can see he's got some red alerts going on.
Yeah.
He's got his dashboard is lighting up with orange and red. And he's like, you could see him processing it live, where he's like, okay, they're playing for their country, not their tour. They're playing for their country, not their tour. Like, he is rehearsing. Can I make my mouth say these things? It is very funny to watch. It does really. Producer Tony's right. It does get better every time. He just is completely broken over the idea that these guys have now made it. You know, are earning a way on, and that people are coming around on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, and I think that's the thing is I think these players know that when they get, to these majors that, this is their proving ground right now because it's not on the PGA Tour. And I think that's why you're also probably seeing them play even better in these majors because they're a little more focused on that. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing though, watching this exchange and, Brandel Chambly just really, I don't know what to think about Brandel. I really don't. We could have a whole show about Brandel, I think. So,
it's a tough look. It's a tough day for Brandel. I don't know that he did not enjoy yesterday whatsoever. Or 2 days ago, whatever, when Brooks won. So, anyway, it's the Ryder Cup discussion is going to heat up. The points are there. We talked about it on our show. I mean, right now, there's two names to me that right now you wouldn't want them on the team over a guy like Brooks or DJ, and that's Cam Young and Sam Burns.
mm-hmm.
I mean, Sam Burns is somewhat a little more proven in at least a team event, in at least a match play scenario where he dominated match play this year. Cam Young, obviously a great year last year, but he's getting a lot of credit for last year's performance in the Ryder Cup standings right now. I think he's number 6 because right now he's not playing great. He doesn't look like Cam Young last year. And so if I'm making the team right now, if I'm Zach Johnson and the team is right now, I would rather have Brooks and DJ over both of those guys. And I even I threw this out there on our show. We're not even talking about Patrick Reed. We're not even talking about Captain America, who finished 4th at Augusta and 18th at the PGA Championship. Now, you mentioned that Zach Johnson said he wants high character guys on the Ryder Cup team the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know that Patrick Reed fits that mold. So Patrick Reed may be voted off the island for other reasons, no matter how well he plays. I think the guys were glad to get. I think the PGA Tour Golden Boys, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, the veterans of the Ryder Cup are probably glad to see Patrick not anywhere close to Ryder Cup, possibilities. But Brooks and DJ, I don't think any of those guys have a problem with. And that's the other thing I was going to say is, like, not only does it feel like the public tide is changing, but the player beef is seemingly squashed. Like, there's not really anyone chirping anymore. I mean, we had Rory blasting these guys for almost a year every time he got in front of a microphone, telling them to F off in the Netflix special. Like, we had guys taking shots at these guys, but you've got, Max Homa and his best friend Taylor Gooch doing their thing. And you've got all these other, I think the only guys that are really causing issues are like Phil on Twitter, Westwood on Twitter is kind of annoying. Poulter's taking his shots, although he seems quiet lately. Sergio, maybe. But other than that, it almost seems too like the PGA Tour guys aren't as concerned anymore. And I don't know if maybe it's because everybody's name's been taken off the lawsuit or time has healed all wounds, or the fact that the PGA Tour is so much better than it's ever been thanks to these boys that now these guys just don't want to say anything. I don't know. But it even feels like now the only people mad at each other in the room are Greg and Jay Monahan, and everybody else is just like, figure it out.
Yeah, I think 100%. I mean, I think the biggest distinction there is literally what you just said. Most golf fans are watching because of the players. They do not care about, what tour these players play on. They, like we've said, many times, they just want to watch the best players on the golf course. So there's an important distinction here. The players are the ones that people want to see. Okay. All this other stuff between Monahan and Norman and the tours and all that kind of, that is just noise that most golf fans, I think, are tired of, and they're just happy to see good players playing in these events.
Pat, there is breaking news coming out of the PGA Tour today about the Charles Schwab Challenge, the famed golf course, Colonial Country Club, Ben Hogan's, one of his courses, right? And on there you have the 3-hole stretch, Hogan's Horseshoe, right, or the Horrible Horseshoe, or whatever they call it.
Been called that for a very long time.
It's been called it for a very long time. Well, Commissioner Monahan has and tournament officials have declared that now that 3-hole stretch will now be named Block's Bend after sponsor exemption Michael Block has gotten into the field and everyone is in love with him. And so that name will stick regardless of how well he finishes this week. The Horrible Horseshoe, Hogan's Horseshoe, whatever, is out. So Michael Block,
wow,
here. The Block party is here to stay. We're not getting rid of him. He's playing at Colonial on the exemption, the PGA professional that stole everybody's heart and your mama over the weekend with the coverage. He was amazing, right?
He was. I didn't realize this big change was happening. Are we changing Amen Corner? Is it now like around the block?
It could be
something like that.
Yeah, it could be. They are. The word on the street is the folks at Augusta National have gathered, and there were meetings, closed door meetings yesterday, as well as going into this morning about whether or not to change Amen Corner. But I'm not going to be mad at the guy for playing awesome and having the week of his life. But everyone is freaking the hell out about Michael Block. I think the coolest thing all weekend was the hole in one. Let's watch the hole in one. Like the hole in one.
Yeah, this was amazing.
15th. The fairy tale story gets better. The hole in one for Michael Block.
Well, okay, first of all, I got a couple things. To me, a hole in one where the ball flies straight into the hole is just the purest form of hole in one. Like,
it really is.
If it's a drug, that is the purest cocaine you could possibly take on. Like, it is not the street shit. It is like high-end Wolf of Wall Street type, stuff that just will take you to a whole new level. Like, to me, that kind of hole in one where it's not like this weird, bounce or spin and it just happened to take the right line and go in. When you just fly that thing straight in there and that thing disappears, like, damn, just disappears like Houdini, right? Like, that is incredible to me. So I love that. Number two, why did his caddy pull out the rangefinder?
I saw you.
Could he not? It was only like 180 yards, right? Like, could he?
Well,
not?
that and he only held it up for like 2 seconds. How are you able to see for that?
Oh yeah, no ball there. How about everyone around the green losing their ever loving mind? Like, that will tell you, and you not seeing the ball roll around on this big green thing. It's a white ball.
Well, I mean, does he think that Rory also just gave him this huge hug because he hit it to 8 feet? I mean, they don't hug on every shot that's good on tour. Like, I mean, it was a weird sequence. On top of that, Jim Nantz kind of just,
God, that's so annoying.
He just like basically told everybody what was going to happen, right?
He did.
I mean, come on.
Oh, now let's go to the par 3, and Michael Block, a fairy tale story, and you're like, oh yeah, he's either gonna ascend into heaven or he's gonna make this, right?
Yeah,
one or the other. And why do they do that? I don't understand why they do that. I would love to just be surprised. Like, just go. All right, now we're going to go out to Michael Block on the par 3, whatever, 180 yards. Let's, and then like, oh my God, he dunked it. Like, let me be that excited. I don't understand why the coverage continues to do stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what? Jim Nance actually did the same thing last year at the Masters when Rory made that bunker shot, and then Morikawa made the bunker shot like right after him. Same thing. It's getting old with Nance.
Why is he
Listen,
doing
Nance, you're one of the greats. Stop with all the spoiler alerts, okay?
It is really annoying. Michael Block, whatever. Like,
It was a magical week. It really was. I will say this: if we want to talk some gambling talk on this show,
Mhm.
I'm taking every single over possible on Block for these next couple of events because he got into Charles Schwab this week. He's going to get into the Canadian Open, I hear. All right. If I'm looking at overs and he's somewhere around 71 and a half, something like that, I'm taking the over in round one. If it's a miscut, I'm taking the miscut if I'm getting some plus money.
Okay, you're not going to get plus money on the missed cut. Like, that would be ridiculous. He's minus 250 to miss the cut on DraftKings. He's plus 160 to make on DraftKings. I mean, minus 250. I mean, honestly, this is a stay away bet. I'm not
not either. I thought I might get a little bit better odds because people are freaking out so much and they want to.
Yeah, the general public is freaking out. Meanwhile, the books know. Like,
luckily,
I mean, it is kind of wild how good his odds are compared to like where's his what's his outright odds? Michael Block is 600 to 1 to win outright. That puts him, I mean, I guess it's kind of, I mean, it puts him down in the like Luke Donald, Harrison Endicott, Cole Hammer, Cody Gribble kind of territory, which I guess, sure, 600 to 1 to win. But anyway, that's probably enough of Michael Block. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Charles Schwab Challenge. We're going to talk some bets finally. Pat's got just the tip. And don't forget our friend Jeff Seeley, cut maker Jeff, is going to come around, talk to us about live golf betting, Brooks Koepka's future, and all that good stuff. Stay right here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Better Sports Network.
I think that this is something I've always advocated in all my shows I've done for 10 plus years. I always say to people, get your guys. You're going to be rooting for these guys all season. Whoever you want to root for, whoever you want to that you think is going to be the fun guy to cheer for, get them on your team. However, as you just pointed out, and I don't know if you have any hard figures in front of you, Bradley, but there is something to be said for, my God, I was planning on Aaron Jones this round. I did not plan on Jahmyr Gibbs still being here. Maybe I have to skip who I want here and take the guy that is being handed to me by my other 11 competitors, because this is going to help me be a better best ball drafter.
Yeah, Hayden Winks has done a lot of amazing work in documenting all of the drafts and getting that data. And there is tremendous, irrefutable evidence to suggest that drafting a player significantly ahead of ADP maybe once is not going to hurt you, but multiple times, or reaching on 3 or 4 players more than a round ahead of ADP in those first 3/4 of the draft is going to significantly inhibit your ability to access league winning or tournament winning upside. It's like, we want to win the money, so why are we not trying to get players who are going to give us value? And just because you don't like a player doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taking them in that spot. I don't think there's a player that you should be 100% out on we're talking May 18th. Mm-hmm. A lot can change between now and the start of the season. In fact, it's the same distance from now to the start of the season as from now to January, right? So we're like halfway through the offseason. There's a lot of green grass to happen. So if you're drafting right now, consider just continuing to accumulate value in your drafts as you're drafting in FFPC or in other places.
Making you money in daily fantasy sports and golf betting. Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
Get all pro access to Fantasy Alarm for the award-winning DFS playbook covering 10 different sports, plus fantasy football and NFL betting content, tools, podcasts, and Discord chat. For a limited time, get all this for 50% off your first 6 months with promo code ALARM50 at fantasyalarm.com. So get started with a free trial today. That's promo code ALARM50 at fantasyalarm.com. Welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show, talking a little bit of PGA Championship recap. We're going to get into the Charles Schwab Challenge, which is always one of the harder tournaments to say when doing content throughout the PGA Tour season. I mean, there's like 48 events. Charles Schwab Challenge might be the toughest to like really enunciate. I don't know. We might have to have a ranking of difficult tournaments to say. Our boy Jeff Seeley's coming. Cutmaker Jeff. We're going to talk with Jeff about live golf betting. He's a pro at that. He's a good golf handicapper. He's a big Brooks fan, so we're going to let him victory lap a little bit too. But let's get into the Charles Schwab Challenge from Fort Worth, Texas. It is at Colonial Country Club. It's a course we all know and love. Colonial Country Club is a great track. It's kind of a tree-lined, old-school, classic Perry Maxwell design. Perry Maxwell, great designer, also designed Southern Hills. Last year, we saw the PGA Championship. Colonial is a great spot. It's known for precision accuracy off the tee with tight fairways, penal Bermuda rough, kind of the dog legs, got to work your ball. You got tree troubles if you miss. Then it's about hitting good short irons and mid irons. This is not like some of the tournaments we've seen lately where you got to pound the long irons. There's going to be a lot of more, mid irons in your hand, wedges in your hand into these very small greens. Some of the smallest greens on the PGA Tour, they're pure bent grass, so they do roll quite nicely. And around the greens, if you do miss, it's not overly difficult based on kind of difficulty rankings that we've looked at over the years. Scrambling around Colonial, getting out of the bunkers around Colonial, not super hard. But the main defense of the golf course is wind. It's Texas, right? You got to have wind. Well, it looks like as of now, Pat, we're not going to get hardly any wind. So where do we think the winning score is going to be? Anything else you'd add in terms of, what people need to do to have success around here? Maybe let's talk about some of the past champs and kind of where we're looking on the outright odds.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't think the win is going to be much of a factor. I do think the scoring is going to be relatively low. Not a whole lot of like easy scoring chances out here as far as like par fives are concerned. But you look at like right off the bat, the first hole, I mean, it's an easy birdie hole. These guys I think I've read like a 50% birdie rate on the first hole, and the second hole is pretty easy. So right off the bat, going to be, scoreable holes. And then I think the rest of the way, there are plenty of chances. This is one of those type courses, kind of like Augusta National, where it's very positional off the tee as far as like, you gotta maybe hit your spots off the tee. You don't necessarily have to hit. Now, this is unlike Augusta National. You don't have to hit driver here in a lot of spots, but then approach is a key thing to this course here. So I think you're going to see probably like 15, 16 under win. That's probably what I think we'll see. But it should be, I think the field is good. I'm excited about the field. I mean, I'm surprised sandwiched here in between, where we are with a major and then an elevated event next week. So we'll see. We got a lot of good players here, and it's like you said, good old classical Colonial golf course.
Yeah, we were both pleasantly surprised to see the top end of the field at least looking decent for an event that is not an sandwich between a major and the elevated event that is Memorial next week at Jack's Place at Muirfield Village. We'll be excited to cover that one. Past champs, your defending champ is Sam Burns at 9 under, who battled the wind and the elements last year. It's not going to play like it did last year. It's going to play easier. He beat Scotty Scheffler in a playoff. I mean, imagine Scotty could have had another one last year if Sam wouldn't have dropped like a bomb putt like he tends to do at Colonial last year. He finished, he was 30-1 pre-tournament. Jason Kokrak won before that at 14 under, around 50 or 60-1. Daniel Berger won in 2020. It was the first event after the COVID restart. He won at 15 under at around 70-1. Kevin Na, Justin Rose, Kisner, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk, Adam Scott, all of those guys have won before. So you kind of see a mixed bag here. You see some more accuracy guys, precision guys like Kirk, like Spieth at the time when he won, Kisner, Kevin Na. And then you see some guys that got some pop in the bat, some distance, like Sam Burns, Jason Kokrak. Daniel Berger's not short. Justin Rose, not really short in 2018 either. Adam Scott in 2014, not a short hitter. So I think bombers, shorter hitters, great putters like Jordan Spieth, like Kevin Kisner, at least at the time, Kevin Na, great putters can win. Bad putters can win. Hello, Jason Kokrak. Like Jason Kokrak, not a great putter. I think Kokrak may have kind of cracked the code here a little bit for the longer hitter. He was a little more aggressive. He cut some corners on some of these trees. I don't know. It was interesting. So, that's kind of the lay of the land and what we're looking at here in terms of, outright winners and stuff like that. At the top of the board, you've got Scotty Scheffler as the favorite around 4-1, Spieth around 12-1, Hovland and Finau now down to about 14 to 15 to 1. I think they're around 16, 18 yesterday. Colin Morikawa was up there around 18 to 1 or so, 16 to 1. It feels like the number for Scheffler is really, really short, even as good as he's playing. Obviously, the Texas narrative is there too. What do you want to do up here up top, Pat? Just give us a couple of picks up top.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of zeroing in on Victor and Tony Finau. I did get him a little bit earlier when they were at 16 to 1, but still like him at 14 to 1. I think Victor, coming off of the disappointment last week, he's a guy that, though, is playing extremely well when you look at his ball striking, which is, obviously one of the things you got to do well on this golf course. And, it's like you said last night on our show. I mean, I think he just wants to get a win. He wants to hold any kind of trophy he can possibly hold right now. And I think Victor's going to play well this week, so I like him at 14 to 1. If I'm going like a little bit longer in the odds.
Hang on. Can I stop you there for a second on Finau and Hovland? So one of the things that I did today, I do on most Tuesdays in our Discord in the Nut Hut, is I kind of go through some of the sharper head-to-head books out there and look through some interesting lines that they post in the head-to-head market, because a lot of times those sharp books will tell you something. And then how the line moves leading up to Thursday will also tell you something. So I monitor that too, and I post those lines in our Discord. Last week, by the way, the most interesting line movement all week last week, I said this on Wednesday night, if you remember, was all of a sudden money came flooding in late on Corey Connors.
Mm-hmm.
And he went from being a dog and maybe a slight favorite in a few matchups to being the favorite in all of them and a heavier favorite in the ones he was a slight favorite. And I don't know, the head-to-head bettors had it right, because Corey Connors had a great week. This week, there's not been a lot of line movement because they just got posted. But I was a little shocked by some of the lines posted by the sharper books, and one of them is Tony Finau versus Victor Hovland. I would think it would have been a little bit closer than it is, but Tony Finau right now, it got him as a minus 124 favorite over Victor Hovland, which, I mean, it's not huge, but that's a decent gap when it comes to golf betting. So I thought that was interesting. I'm guessing people are thinking about maybe a Hovland hangover after battling it out for 4 days at Oak Hill.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what I would say. I mean, that's what people tend to think when you have a guy like Hovland who's so close to winning his first major and made some mistakes down the stretch, or one really big mistake. But look, he's been trending in the right direction. He's a young guy. He's always so he just seems to not let anything really bother him anyway. So if there's anybody on tour that can go from 1 week to the next and not really get bothered by too much, I think Victor Hovland's one of them. But yeah, I bet you a lot of the reason for some of the line movement is people are just concerned that, he's just not going to have it together after what happened last week. So
tell me who you're going to bring up down the board a little bit.
Well, DB, who I'm going to bring up is Tommy Fleetwood, because you and I have bet Tommy Fleetwood all year long, and we missed Wyndham Clark, who we had bet all year long, and we decided just not to do it for the Wells Fargo. The same thing happened with who was the other one we didn't bet that won? Oh, Jason Day.
Yeah,
Jason Day, just didn't bet him and he won. So I got to keep going with Fleetwood. I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah. I've learned my lesson. And I'm going with Tommy Fleetwood. I think 33 to 1 may be the best out there that I've seen. Maybe a little bit shorter today. But that would be another one up kind of near the top that I like.
I agree. Another kind of surprising head-to-head line is they've got Russell Henley, a minus 117 favorite over Tommy Ladd, which I thought was interesting. That's one I want to watch and see if the head-to-head bettors get that line flipped, because I think Tommy Ladd is the better play there. I like Russell Henley. Russell Henley's obviously a very accurate player off the tee. He's incredible with his irons. But Tommy Ladd just seems like the safer play there. He's playing just as consistent, way more consistent than Russell Henley. So I don't understand that one, but I agree with you on Tommy. I guess let's talk about I want to hear some first-round leader thoughts if you have any.
Yeah, well, I've got a few, and all of these are morning guys because I just don't think there's any weather advantage, and so I want kind of a little bit softer golf course in the morning. And these are guys who I think can definitely score. We've seen that from them, aggressive players. So Christian Bezuidenhout, he is at 65 to 1. I like him going off very early. I think maybe just before, like around 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
You got Steven Yeager, who I really like as well this week. He's at 55 to 1. Akshay Batia is at 90-1. He's another super aggressive guy. We've seen him go low already this year on tour. I think he had a 62 or a 63. So I like Akshay at 90-1. And then the last one, a guy that you and I have both seen, up close and personal. He's been a very solid player all year, and that's Dylan Wu, who is at 100-1. I like him as well. He tees off a little bit later in the morning, closer to 9 a.m., but those are my 4 favorites. So.
Well, before we're going to get to just the tip. Pat's dropping that today, and then probably Jeff Seeley for another one on live betting. But before we do that, I guess I'll toss in a couple of bombs for me on the outright card. I have dropped DB's Big Balls betting card is alive on tourjunkies.com right now for free. You can check that out. It's all outright bets at 25-1 or longer, nothing shorter. We keep track of it all season. I'm in a little bit of a dry spell at the moment, but we can climb out of it with a hit very easily. And at the long end of that range on DB's Big Balls betting card, which, I said it's been a long time since we've had a 100-1 winner. It's been 10 years. So that means we're due, okay? We could get a bomb here. I've got 3 names. I'm going to talk about 2. The first one is Eric Cole at 100-1 on DraftKings. Eric Cole kind of came out of nowhere at the Honda just a few weeks ago when Chris Kirk won. Pat was on that one, was on that ticket. He lost in the playoff. But, I mean, this guy's a journeyman from mini tours through the Korn Ferry Tour, getting it really his first crack on the PGA Tour full-time this season. And he's shown some high upside with the Honda finish, 5th place at Vedanta Vallarta in Mexico. And he's played really well in some tough events, like 27th at the Players and 15th last week at the PGA Championship, where everything was seemingly clicking for him. He's a good ball striker, good around the greens. I think Eric Cole is a very nice fit at 100-1, a guy who's been in the heat late on a Sunday and showed up at some of these elevated events and played well. So I like Eric Cole. And then finally, I'm going to go with the mayor of Colonial, which I think is Ryan Palmer. 150-1 Ryan Palmer is just too juicy for me to ignore. He's a member here. He loves this place. He talks about how much he loves this place and his membership here. Every single year we hear about it. But at least this year, he's coming in showing something. I mean, he was in I think he was in the last group or the second to last group at the Byron Nelson. He could have won it. He flamed out on Sunday. We know he's a ball striker. He's always been a ball striker. And, played well at the U.S. Open qualifier on Monday. Didn't quite make it. I think he fell 1 shot short of the playoff. But Ryan Palmer at 150-1 is just too ridiculous. That's just too juicy. So I got to take that. All right, Pat, hit us with just the tip.
All right. So just the tip this week. I'm going to try to make it quick. But you know what, DB? And I feel like this really came up for me just thinking about last week with where we were at Oak Hill. And we were on a Donald Ross golf course. So I wanted to talk a little bit about course comps, because that's going to be something like if you're new to betting golf, you're going to hear a lot. And we talk about these course comps. Pete Dye is another one. We talk about him. He's got various characteristics of his golf course. He's got these long bunkers that kind of are in between the fairways and hazards. He's got a lot of railroad ties. You see those at Harbor Town. You see those at TPC Sawgrass. Next week, we got a Jack Nicklaus design course at Memorial. Okay. What do you see with those? You see pretty wide fairways and lightning quick greens. That's what you typically see on Jack Nicklaus design courses. Like I mentioned, we had Donald Ross raised greens last week. We saw that, big, large bunkers, deep bunkers. That's something that's a characteristic there. Perry Maxwell this week. He actually had a hand in Augusta National. He did some things with Augusta National. So, he's another one that has certain characteristics. And then we're going to go to LA Country Club, all right, for the U.S. Open. That is a George C. Thomas golf course. Riviera is one that he had his hand on also. So what does that all tell you? Like when you hear us talking about course designers, well, typically you have players that can play these courses. It's kind of like course history. Some of them like the design of the course. When they get out there on the Pete Dye design, it just fits their eye. When they get out there on a Donald Ross design or Perry Maxwell or LA, George C. Thomas doesn't have a lot of courses out here, but you see a lot of different designers. We talk about them every week. And really the biggest thing you have to glean from that is there are particular player types that do play well on certain designers' golf courses. So I think that's what whenever you hear us talking about a course design, it's usually like, what does that player do well on a Donald Ross design? If they, really good ball strikers, they can really, hit it high into those, elevated greens, that kind of stuff. So I think it's just something I wanted to point out, because we do talk about course designers a good bit especially when we're on a new course. And that's what we're trying to get out of it, is just what type of player plays well on these golf courses.
There you go. That's just the tip by Pat Perry there. I love it. I hate Pete Dye myself personally. So like just my own game, when I go to a Pete Dye course, I already my butthole gets tight pulling in the parking lot.
You're grumpy. You grumpy on the first tee.
Yeah,
You're like, what is that railroad tie doing over there
Yeah.
in the middle of the fairway? Why is that bunker 80 yards long?
Why did he let his wife design this hole when she don't know what she's doing?
Yeah.
That's what I freaking hate about Pete Dye. So, yeah, I definitely think there's certain designers people just care more about. All right, let's get to, before we take a break, we bring cut maker Jeff on, let's do our cash lineup, our 50-50 or double up lineup for DraftKings real quick, and then we'll take a break, bring Jeff on. So, double up lineup, cash only, double up 50-50s. That's what we're looking for, okay? Not trying to be too cute, not trying to be too fancy, just trying to get 6 through the cut, all right? I'm going Tommy Fleetwood. We're going to start there. Duh. Like, that's a no-brainer.
All right. I got you there.
It's a chalk play, even in cash, but I don't care.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump us down a little bit. Man. All right. Now you got me, because I was kind of going to go there, and now I'm stuck.
You didn't have one other player you could mention?
Well, you put me. I'm going to go with Steven Yeager. Actually, I like him as first round leader bet, but I also like him on this course.
All right, a little more chalk there, but that's okay. It's a cash lineup. We're okay. I think KH Lee at 8,300 is a name that might go too much overlooked this week. I really like the way he's hitting it right now. All parts of his game seem to be clicking. He's putting better than ever. He's never really had a good record here at Colonial, but I think it's coming. He seems like everything is popping right now for him, and he's not really ever entered the Charles Schwab with everything clicking like it is right now. And he's done it in elevated events. So I like KH Lee at 8,300.
Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to take some of your advice you kind of gave a little bit earlier here and go with Russell Henley at 8,800. I think he's kind of a sneaky play, might have a little bit lower ownership as well. So
see how we're pepper in the middle here, folks. Nice balanced approach, nice balanced lineup here. All right, I'm going to drop us down a little bit to a safe play I like down here at the bottom. I could go Eric Cole. I don't want to be like super chalk with this lineup there, but I do think Eric Cole is sitting right there. Instead, I'm going to go Hayden Buckley at 7,300. The total driving machine. This young dude is killing it right now off the tee, both distance and accuracy clicking. The iron play's been fantastic. I like Buckley at 7,300. That leaves us 8,300 left.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of different directions we could go here. I think I'm going to have to go with. I think Grillo's going to scare you, DB, but I kind of like Grillo here. I mean, makes a lot of cuts. Great ball striker.
No, it doesn't scare me. Remember, we talked about him a little bit on our podcast. Like, he did have a terrible first round at the PGA, shot 8 over. But to see him battle it back and shoot just 1 over on the second day and kind of bring everything back to normal where it has been gives me a little encouragement on Grillo. If you just look at the finishing total and go, oh my God, he shot 9 over, he's terrible, then that's a little more scary. But I think when you break it down and see how well he recovered in round 2 at the PGA on his way to trunk slamming, I still think it's okay. So I like it. So we got Fleetwood, we got Russell Henley at 8,800, KH Lee at 8,300, Steven Yeager at 81. Emiliano Grillo at 77 and Hayden Buckley at 7,300. That is your cash game lineup for a double-double or double-up or a 50-50. All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come right back on the Tour Junkies Golf Show with our friend Jeff Seeley, Cut Maker Jeff, on the Better Sports Network.
Let me talk to you, Vlad, about an award here that I thought was very, very debatable. And it was Cy Young in the National League. In terms of odds, it's Strider at plus 230, Zach Gallen at plus 215, Clayton Kershaw plus 1,000. Clayton Kershaw, to me, his numbers are phenomenal and better, or at least right there with these other two. Strider was my preseason pick to win the award. But Clayton Kershaw at plus 1,000 compared to these other guys with similar numbers in the plus 200s. Like, let's bang on Kershaw and hope he doesn't get hurt, right? Where are you at with that, Vlad?
Yeah, those are great odds. I think the only concern that fantasy players and Dodgers fans had before the season started was innings limitations. Just wanting to make sure that he is fully ramped up for the playoffs. And as some teams do, you sometimes get those phantom IL stints. And we might see that sometime maybe around the All-Star break with Kershaw, just to preserve his arm over the second half of the season. But man, he's a great pick. If you're telling me those are the odds, That's really, really nice. I do love your Spencer Strider pick. I think that's what I would have done in the preseason and bet on him. He's an absolute beast. So, but Clayton Kershaw plus 1,000. Those are phenomenal odds. And you mentioned Zach Gallen. He's incredible too. And looks like Arizona has been in the hunt there in the playoff. Well, so far it's early. Dodgers, maybe Padres will be in competition for that division. But yeah, that's a nice three-way race, and we might see some other players pop in there.
Tee off with the Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Better Sports Network. For our final segment, we're going to bring in our friend, longtime friend, fantastic golf gambler, handicapper, and absolute Brooks Koepka stan and chief of the fan club, our boy Jeff Seeley, cut maker. Jeff, what's up, dude?
What's up, fellas?
Oh God, look at the cardboard cutout behind him.
Amazing.
It's from the first Koepka Palooza I've had. Koepka Palooza 4 coming out here in 2023. You guys want to make the trip to Indy? You're more than welcome to come. And you were mentioning Pete Dye. I'm looking out the window. I live on Pete Dye's second 18-hole course.
Oh.
Indiana's got a ton of Pete Dye courses. So if you don't like Pete Dye, you don't want to play here, bro.
What is Koepka Palooza? Enlighten me here. I don't know what that is.
So when Koepka won his first major, I had $500 on him at 50 to 1. And so I had like all my friends in my club. I invited everybody. I got 2 kegs of Mick Ultra and $2,000 worth of Chick-fil-A nuggets and about 100 golf carts rolled up in my backyard. And we just had a big party celebrating Brooks. And then I said, every major he wins from then on out, I'm going to have another Koepka Palooza. So I'm going to wait until August because I might have to do 2 or 3 this year. So I want to just do 1 instead. So I don't want to go broke on Chick-fil-A. That stuff adds up quick. So, but yeah, I know it.
I love the confidence. The confidence is great there. That just wait till August because he may get a couple more the rest of the season.
Well, he should have won the Masters.
I know. I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, dude, let's not put limitations on our boy. He could win 4 more majors this season, even though there's only 2 left.
I've got the ticket. I've got that. I bet 10,000 at Westgate at plus 130 over 175. Excuse me, $10,000 plus 130 over 7.5 career majors. So I need 3 more. When Jeff Sherman put that out, I was the first person to bet it, and that was 6 years ago now. So
we talked about that in our opener. We talked about that at our opener. You look like a genius right now. So yeah, first of all, I definitely want to be made aware of when Koepka Palooza happens or goes down whenever that happens.
August 19th. You're both invited.
August 19th. Beautiful. All right, we're gonna write that down.
That'll be much warmer than it was in Indy the last time we were there, which was when Georgia was winning its first national title in 40 years. But
I was there.
Yeah, we were too, and it was not good for us Georgia boys, but we stuck it out. Listen, Jeff, because we don't have a lot of time. I mean, I can sit here and let you grovel in your Brooks Koepka stuff, but I've always wanted to get your your quick live betting 101, just few minutes spiel from cut maker Jeff. I've always wanted to do that, have you on our show, talk through that, because I know that's something that you've done for a long time and you're good at it. It's not something that Pat and I have ever really dabbled in. We usually make all of our bets up front and we just live and die and we ride, and maybe to our detriment, maybe to, it helps us out some weeks that we don't do anything, but then other weeks we miss it. I think I've bet live. I've bet a winner live twice this season. Both times it was Siwoo Kim. The first time he actually ended up winning at about plus 850 when I bet it live the night before, 2 nights before. And then the last time was just a couple weeks ago with the Byron Nelson when he came 1 short. So, but talk to us about the process in that and kind of how you go about making those decisions.
It's a great question. And one thing I think I do probably best, honestly, even better than live betting, is round by round matchups, right? I don't think enough people bet round by round matchups. People bet pre-tourney matchups and then outrights, as you mentioned, but I do a ton of round by round matchups. And that's really where I've had my most success. And so in those, I think it's simply, if you had a good pre-tournament handicap, and you knew and you trust what your numbers were beforehand, and then you see the numbers during the tournament, a lot of times you can find an edge. And it doesn't have to be a huge edge, guys. Like, I'm just looking for 10 or 15 cents and I'm going to make a bet. So not a huge, if I can find, a 5-10% edge, I'm gonna make that play. And that's, in the in round terms. But again, live betting, certainly, I think it comes down to how they play. For me, it comes down to how they played the course thus far, what holes are left, how they played those holes, and again, kind of your odds to win. A lot of people use data golf. I use data golf as kind of one of the factors. But if you're all in on data golf, if you look at the data golf odds and the sportsbook odds, a lot of times they're pretty closely aligned. So you've got to take some stance one side or the other in that. And I've done that pretty often. So a lot of different resources you can use, but having confidence and understanding, okay, look, there's value here. I really think there's value here, and not being afraid to fire. That's the other thing. If you think you find value, not being afraid to fire is critical, because you're going to be wrong sometimes, but you hit a few big ones and it works out well.
Okay, so talk to me about, you said like trusting your pre-tournament handicapping process.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that like in a round by round situation we know, and I mean, even for those of us who maybe don't live in a legal gambling state, you can kind of expose yourself to this a little bit with sites like Prize Picks, sites like Underdog that give these player matchups where it's not necessarily, Underdog does give a score matchup day by day. Prize Picks will do like a birdie or better sort of matchup. But we've been playing these long enough to know that, any one round, any player can beat any player in the field. I mean, we talked about it on our show just last week. I mean, damn, round one last week at the PGA Championship, John Rahm lost to Michael Block by how many shots, or even total for the whole tournament, right? I've been burned by damn Chad Ramey in a birdie or better matchup against a stud, on Prize Picks, and I want to bash my head in. But so when you talk about that, like if let's say I find some pre-tournament value on a guy like Tommy Fleetwood, right? And I just love him. He checks all the boxes. And then after round one, he kind of goes out and puts up a little bit of a stinker. And then round two, I see that the number's interesting. The number's juicy against whoever it may be. How do you weigh like how good you saw that player coming into it pre-tournament versus maybe how one round went or two rounds went, whether the ball striking was off or whatever? How do you kind of weigh those things and actually trust your first instincts?
Well, that's a great question. And I think the most important thing there, frankly, is volume, right? If you bet enough of them, because you're going to be wrong on some, to your point, you're going to get burned on some. But if you're betting 10 and you're way wrong on 2, that's okay. So that, I think, is the first most important thing is and bet them small. Like I'll bet my round by round matchups half of how I bet the pre-tournaments. But to your question, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Like you look at it, you look at the stats and say, hey, look, is Fleetwood just putting badly? Is he doing something he normally does well? And is that going to regress to the norm? Or is he usually an elite, is he always a bad putter? And take Colin Morikawa, right? If all of a sudden Colin Morikawa is 3 over and you thought he was going to be playing well, but he's missing every putt, I'm not touching Colin Morikawa because I don't know if that putter's ever going to come back. So It really comes down to, is it something that I think this guy that's correctable that will revert to the mean, or is it something that they're bad at, that they're continuing to be bad at? I'm not touching that guy then.
If you're looking at, let's just talk about from an outright winner standpoint, but betting it live. So like maybe let's just say on a Saturday night, you're looking at the field and you're not necessarily going to take the guy who's leading. What would you consider good odds on a guy that is, just back of the leader, and what's like kind of just dumb? Like where are you kind of drawing the line on the guy that you want to bet as a live outright going into Sunday?
Depends on the talent of the player, right? If I see John Rahm at 80-1 going into Saturday, I'll fire because I know he can go nuclear and anything can happen. Tony Finau is kind of a similar guy. And guys, what I think is just as important, you made a good point, what I think is just as important and more profitable is betting top 10s and top 20s live, right? Because those are real opportunities. You can find a guy to sneak in and maybe get 3 or 4 to 1 on a guy who Tony Finau is a great example. Rory McIlroy is a great example. Started out slow and sneaks his way back in a lot of time. So those are two guys I look at in that kind of scenario. Like this weekend, I'll think of a perfect example would be Jordan Spieth. If Jordan Spieth goes out this weekend and is, for whatever reason, 2 over after Friday, I'm absolutely going to make a live play on Spieth at 25-1 or something like that, because we know he can own this course and course history is phenomenal. So it's just things like that. That is the history there. What was your handicap going in? And how do you think? Do you think this guy's really this bad? He's going to struggle this week, or do you see the bounce back? And is there equity in it in the price?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think so for betting top 10s, 5s, 20s, whatever, even outrights live, is there a round that you prefer to wait until to fire those bets, or is it just kind of depend based on the tournament? What do you like to look at there?
I love round. I will bet very, very little in round 2, and I hammer round 3 and 4. Round 3 is usually my biggest round I bet in. Last week, I think I made 15 bets.
Meaning you're betting on this usually Friday night or Saturday morning, but
correct.
After
yep. Usually, okay. Exactly. I'm kind of rubbing my eyes, wearing off my hangover on Saturday morning at 5 a.m. and kind of rerunning things, looking through things. And by 6:30, I've got it figured out, and I've got 10 or 15 plays I'm making on Saturday morning. And I had, so like on DraftKings this week, I went 9-0 in my Saturday matchups. That's not sustainable, but it was crazy. And if you're going to get lucky sometimes, but if you do the work, you're going to win more than you lose. And we certainly have done that this year. I think there's a ton of value in the round by round matchups. My favorite way to bet golf.
Yeah.
Well, where can the people find your stuff, Jeff? Go ahead and
plug guys. Sure. At Cutmaker Jeff, at Cutmaker Pod. I'll be on VSiN tomorrow morning. For those who see VSiN, I'm on there on Wednesday mornings talking golf with Mitch and Paulie on Follow the Money. We're recording a pod tonight, do our pod tonight, but you guys are always great. Looking forward to having you guys on our pod at some point here soon, and appreciate you guys having me on. And again, August 19th, pack your bags, book your tickets to Indy. Let's go. We'll play some Pete Dye golf and drink some Mick Ultra and eat some Chick-fil-A in honor of Koepka.
Dude, it sounds beautiful. I might try to make it work. I did say on that bitter cold night after the Dogs won the Natty, I said, this is awesome. It's the best decision we ever made to come here, but I'm never coming back here again. I was freezing cold, but that could change.
It's different in August. It's very different.
If I get all the Chick-fil-A and Mick Ultra in August with Cutmaker Jeff, I might make it happen. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Thank everybody for watching another Tour Junkies golf show here on the Better Sports Network. Get your live betting going and follow Cutmaker Jeff. All right. And we'll be back next week for an elevated event at Memorial at Jack's Place. Let's have a great week. See you.